Hey everyone, welcome to Flutterverse. Hope you are enjoying learning Flutter. So in today's session, we are going to see about classes and function. So let's first discuss what is a function. So basically, a function is a block of a code which is designed to perform a specific or particular task, right? So for example, uh, let's have a username. Okay, okay. Now I want to print, hey user, hope you are doing well. So I'll just type hey. I'll give it a dollar sign to take uh, what do you say variable in the print statement in the if it's in the double quote. So I'll type user name, okay, and then hope you are doing well. Okay, so when I run it, you can see that hey Aniket, hope you are doing well gets printed out in the console. Now what if I have to do this thing to do the same thing for two more user, right? So I cannot reinitialize the same variable again. So I have to just change the variable name and then I'll change the name of user. Then again I'll do the same thing and I'll change the name of user. Okay, when I run this, you can see that all this three statement gets printed out in the console. But what if I want to print the same thing hundreds of times, right? So to overcome this problem, which is to overcome the repetitive code, which is using the same logic, there's something called function has been built, right? So to create a function, you type void if it is not returning anything, like if it's just performing a specific task. So in our case, it is going to just perform a specific task, which is it's going to just print the a statement, right? So I'll type void and I'll type function name, which is going to be print name, and here I type print hello name, hope hope you are doing well, correct? So in this case, where is name? We don't have name, so this thing we are going to take as an argument, okay? So the type of the name is going to be string. So I type here name, and you can see that the error goes now. Okay, so to call this function, I just have to uh, write the name of a function, which is print name. And when I hover over this thing, you can see that it says that one positional argument expected but zero found, which means that we're taking name as an argument, but we have not yet given it, right? So I can just type name, my name, Aniket, and when I run it, you can see that hello Aniket, hope you are doing well gets printed out in the console. Now to do this several of a time, for example, we have list of user names. So we can iterate over all the names in the list and print out using this statement. So if I have to do this for different name, I could just uh, write the name, and when I do it, you can see that the name gets printed out. The both name gets printed out in the console without initializing the different variables and writing print statement again and again, right? And to take there is one more way of taking argument, which is called named argument. So to do so, okay, so yeah. So to do so, you just write a curly braces and inside the curly braces give the type and the variable name, right? So I've given it string and variable name. I've given this question mark because I'm telling Flutter, I'm telling Dart to if the name is null, that's fine to me. Okay. So when I do this and when I rerun this thing, you can see that it is giving us an error. Why? Because it is a name argument. Now it is going to uh, take the value, but before that value, it is going to ask name, and we have to give it uh, give some sign like this. And when I type this, you can see that it is going to now work. So when I do name and then I write Shivam and then again run it, you can see that it is going to now run perfectly. Cool. Now let's see how you could return something. So to return something, it should have a type. So for example, if we are writing a code which returns the sum of value 1 and 2, and for that I write int, then I write the function name, and I type here return because it is going to return, but what it is going to return, it is going to return sum of a plus b, right? But where is a and b? So for this you need to give argument int a and b, right? Now if I just write here sum of number, which is a function name, and give it two value, which is 1 and 2, and then when I run it, uh, sum of number, okay, so when I run it, you can see that nothing happens in the console because we are just returning it, we are not printing it, right? So what you can do is you can just write print and then uh, wrap this with this brackets, and when you run it you can see that 3 gets printed out in the console. Okay, so this was one of the way of returning something, but there's one more method which you can use, which is suppose multi multiply two numbers, but in this case we are not going to use the braces. Instead we are going to take argument which is int a, then we are going to take another argument which is int 2, and it is going to return something. But in this case what we'll do is we'll write arrow, and then we'll type here a into b. Okay, so now when I call this thing 3 into 2, and when I run it, you can see that 6 gets printed out in the console. Okay, so this and this are doing the same task, but the choice is yours. You can use either the curly braces one, or you can use this arrow bracket one. So in this way you can we have learned about function, the normal function which doesn't return anything but it does some specific task, and another function which returns something, and in this case we have learned the curly braces function and a function and a arrow function, right? Okay, so now let's talk about classes. So basically classes are the blueprint of some, what you can say, of object, right? For example, I'll create a class. To create class, you just type class and the class name, superhero, and give it a curly braces. Okay, so a superhero is always going to have a name, right? So I'll type superhero and then give it a name. A superhero is also going to have some speed, so I'll type here speed. A superhero is also going to have strength, so I'll type here strength, strength, right? Now in classes we can also create several functions. So in our case I'll create a function which says give me the information about the superhero. So I'll type give info, and then in this info I'll print the name. So I'll type your name, then I use dollar sign to get the name of the variable. So I'll print the name, then I'll print the speed. So I'll type speed, then we also want strength, so I'll just type here strength, and in dollar sign strength, right? So we have created a function which prints out the name, speed, and strength of the superhero, right? Now there's one thing which you should always keep in mind to be a better programmer, that you should always write a class with starting with a capital letter, and a function always starting with a small letter, small case and large and capital case, right? So now we have created the blueprint, and so what we'll do, we'll create the instance, we'll create the object of this blueprint. Okay, so this is a blueprint. अब हम लोग इसमें जान भरेंगे, right? So I'll type here superhero, and let's call it superhero 1. Okay, so this is going to be superhero. Okay, so this is a syntax to initialize a object or create an instance. So I have created super. Okay, just call it superhero 1. We'll call this thing superhero 1. Now this superhero 1 is going to have name. So I'll just type superhero 1, then I write dot. You can see that all the uh, things or the variable names inside the class is coming in the pop-up. So I'll type here, I'll click enter, then I'll type the name of this superhero. I'll give it Iron Iron Man, right? So I've given the name to this superhero Iron Man. I'll also type superhero 1 dot. I'll give it a speed. The speed is going to be 8 out of 10. Then sorry, I'll again call superhero dot strength, and we'll give it a strength of 10. Right now, when I print the information about the superhero which we have in this class, which is to give info, so we'll call this thing give info, right? And when I run this thing, you can see that name Iron Man, speed 8, and strength 10 gets printed out in the console, right? So in this way, we have created a class. We have written the blueprint of a superhero. Then हमने इसके अंदर जान भरा by creating an instance, right? Now, now you can see that we have created superhero. What if you have more than one superheroes? In case we are not using classes, so we have to always initialize name again and again and again again. But in this case, I could just create a new instance, which is going to be superhero 2 and superhero 2. So let's create an instance first. So I type superhero equal to superhero. Okay, so now we have created an instance of superhero 2. Now let's create the name of the superhero 2. So I'll type name, then I'll type Spider Man. Then we are going to have speed, which is 7. Then we are going to have strength, which is going to be 8. Now when I print super sorry superhero 2 dot give info, so you can now see that two things gets printed out. First is the info about Iron Man, and the second thing is the info about Spider-Man. Okay, now let's try to optimize this thing. We always have to create you superhero, and we initialize it with a variable name. And all the superheroes are required to have a name, speed, and strength. So why we need to always reinitialize it like this and give it a value? So instead of doing this, Dart has a better way of doing this, some which is called constructor. So to create constructor, the syntax looks something like this. You have to specify the name of the class. So I type hero. Then what are the arguments which we want to take in the class? So it is going to be this dot name. So what does this tells you? So this tells you that we want to take name and we want to save that variable name into this variable called name, right? So it is quite explanatory, self-explanatory. So we have used this dot name, then we again will use this dot speed, and then this dot strength. Okay, so now we have created the named a parameter or constructor in this field. So what I'll do here, I'll comment this thing out. You can see that to create a superhero, you need to write this much of code. So let's try to optimize it using constructors, right? So as you can see that we have used we have created a constructor in a class. So and you can see that we have a error. So when you hover over it, you can see that three positional arguments which are required by them, are required by them. So the first argument which it takes is going to be name. So I'll type here Batman, Batman. I'll type the speed, I'll type the strength. And when I do so, you can see that the error goes off. So I have optimized this one, two, three. So instead of writing this three lines of code, I've optimized it with just one line of a code by using constructor. So this is basically the use of constructor. Now, if I want to print the info of this superhero, I could just type give info, and when I print it, you can see that name Batman speed 10 and strength 10 gets printed out in the console. So this was basically the use of constructor which you have seen. Now, what if you in superhero? What if you don't know the positional argument? Like here you have to write name, and in the second argument you have to write speed, and in the third argument you have to write what do we say, strength. So instead of doing this, we can use name parameter or the name arguments. So to use name argument, what you need to do is wrap this whole thing in curly braces, and before this dot name, just type required and use this thing for every parameters because we need all of them. So that's the reason we are using required. So I created required. Now when you hover over superhero, you can see that name parameter name is required. So what I'll type here, I'll type name, and in name I'll give it Batman, and then you can see, again hover over it, and you can see that strength is required now. So I'll type here strength and use strength and 10. Then when again you hover over it, you can see that the argument speed is required. Okay, so I'll type speed, and I'll again give it a value. Now when you're done and when you run this, you can see that the information which is name, Batman, speed, and strength and gets printed out in the console in the same way we were doing without the named parameter. So the basically the use of named parameter is that it removes out the confusion if the variable is what do you say, the name, or if the variable is speed, or if the variable is strength. And you also don't have to give give this parameter positionally. For example, if I was doing this without name parameter, then it was compulsory for me to write name first, then I write speed second, then write strength third. But in this case you can I'll show you, you can write strength first, speed second, and then name third. Okay, now when I again print this thing, you can see that the same thing gets printed out in the console, so it does not have to do anything with the positional arguments. Okay, so this was about functions and classes and that. So I hope you have enjoyed watching this session and you have learned about classes and function. So in the next session we are going to learn about animations and animation in Flutter. So we'll see you there.